Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. I'm going to read Ukraine's quote of the day. The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. The world is going to need strength because there's a lot going on. Ukraine's Budanov says we're approaching global war. The head of Ukraine's military intelligence, unlike in previous interviews, refrained from making forecasts about the end of the war, but made valid points about other high-profile issues. So when we think about the conflicts occurring all around the world, especially this last year, there's been numerous coups in Western and Central African republics. There's also been this brief war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and now we have the war between Hamas and Israel. What is the common denominator with all of these conflicts? And it was the Wagner Group providing weapons and training to rebels to overthrow these governments in Central Africa. Russian peacekeepers were supposed to be in this disputed territory between Armenia and Azerbaijan. I didn't really talk about this conflict. In my mind, there's not a clear right or wrong side, but this disputed territory is internationally recognized as belonging to Azerbaijan, so I support their claim. But Russia was backing Armenia, allowing them to keep this territory by supplying them with weapons. Russia was the one keeping this conflict going for decades. And now we have the war between Hamas and Israel. And this is an interesting video that's gone viral online. This is from October 7th, when Hamas terrorists blew through the walls and poured into Israeli-controlled territory. And listen to what one of these fighters is shouting. I don't speak Russian, but Natalka does. Numerous other people do who have seen this clip. And there's very clearly somebody yelling in Russian to these Hamas fighters, giving them guidance and advice. So yes, I do believe the intelligence reports that Russia has been providing training, at least, probably weapons, to Hamas in order to trigger this war in the Middle East. Russia wants other areas of the world to descend into chaos because they think that will distract the West and give them an easier path to victory in Ukraine. But it's not going to work. U.S. senators are now considering a year-long aid package to Ukraine worth between $50 and $100 billion. So President Biden and the White House was only asking Congress for $24 billion, and there's a bipartisan group of senators fighting to double that, given all of the chaos and disorder happening around the world, with all of it tying back to Russia, by the way. Yes, I think this narrative and this movement in Congress, at least, will grow. The vote's not going to occur until November. There's nothing really to pay attention to as far as Congress the next 30 days. And Congress is still a mess. Steve Scalise was supposed to be the new speaker, but he couldn't secure the votes, so he's withdrawn his name. One of the chambers of Congress can't go into session. They can't vote on anything because House Republicans can't agree on a leader. So I'm actually optimistic there's going to be a bipartisan coalition to form in the House. And as soon as they form, this will happen in November, they're going to vote on aid to Ukraine, and the United States will militarily support Ukraine for another 12 months. That is my prediction. I'm actually feeling more confident than ever, given everything that Russia has been doing. So Russian propagandists are trying to control the narrative, given there's this battle happening in Western countries about continued support for Ukraine. So the narrative is that the war is already over, Ukraine is already lost, stop supporting Ukraine because they've already lost. But given all this disruption occurring in the Middle East, Russia's actually looking for a victory. Russia wants to give their supporters something to crow about, that the Russian military is still capable of advancing, taking cities, taking territory, that Ukraine is a lost cause. So Russian attacks have intensified in the eastern city of Avdiivka. Here's where this is located on the map. This is in the Donbass region. Here is Avdiivka. And the Russians for 20 months have been trying to capture this relatively small town. So here is a more highlighted map of what's been occurring the last 3 or 4 days. The Russians have been attempting to flank to the west and flank to the north to encircle the city of Avdiivka. Ukrainian defenders are being resupplied probably by only one road, and if the Russians can cut off that road, they're feeling pretty confident they can take the village. Now, Avdiivka pre-war population was only 32,000. About 3,000 civilians still remain in the city. And Russia really wants this city to give their supporters a morale boost, because the regular Russian ground forces haven't done much the last year. So here's a report from inside the city. This is Avdiivka. This is what the Russians have done to this city.
Авдіївка. Приїхав поставити хліб та корм для тварин. Хліб та корм для тварин, слава Богу, в Авдіївку доставляють, але є віддалені вулиці, куди не доїжджають. Власне, тому я тут. Ось така вона Авдіївка. Привіт, красавчики! Привіт! Что это? Хлебушек. Красотуня, вышли. Все, класс. Нет. Спасибо вам огромное. Спасибо большое. Это красиво. Спасибо. Все, счастливенько. Согласна. Чем бьют? Чем лупят? Ну що сказати, всі і так розуміють, що Авдіївку стирають, просто стирають. Єдиний порятунок для Авдіївки та всіх населених пунктів, які знаходяться на лінії вогню, це відбити російську чуму якомога далі. От і все.
So Avdiivka looks like Mariupol, looks like Bakhmut, looks like Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, every other city where Russian peace comes for Ukrainian citizens. But it's not going very well for Russia. The last 4 days have been a disaster. If you look at the casualty reports reported by Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, huge spike in casualties for the Russians because they're getting annihilated assaulting this city. Signs Russia's attempt to encircle Avdiivka is stalling. There are reports that Russia is incurring major losses as it tries to encircle this town. So the videos are online. I'll link a bunch of them down below if you want to see tanks getting blown up, APCs getting blown up, and floods of meat wave attacks, Russian soldiers being annihilated by cluster munitions. They're attacking during the daytime, and Ukraine has eyes in the skies everywhere, so once again, lots of videos. We've even got thermal vision showing what these cluster rounds look like, hitting Russian soldiers advancing through open fields. And there are reports, visually confirmed, that Russia is using barrier troops in Avdiivka. So they're forcing their soldiers to advance, and if they try and retreat, they're being fired on by their own forces. After getting shelled with cluster munitions, a group of 40 men in a Storm Z penal battalion started to flee, and a Russian BMP arrived and started firing on their own soldiers. So similar to how the Wagner group took Bakhmut, Russia believes the only way they can advance is to take prisoners and with guns to their back, force them to attack the Ukrainians in these meat wave assaults. This is horrendous, this is barbaric, but Russia's pretty incompetent. And things for the Russians are about to get a lot worse this month because finally, GLSDB will be arriving. So we got an announcement from Boeing and Saab. Here's the site Aviation Week Network quoting somebody who works at Saab saying that they are on track to deliver GLSDB soon. Now, there's also a report of a new launcher. I've never heard about this. GLSDB is supposed to be capable of being launched from HIMARS and M270, so this could be a mistake from Ukrainian front, so there might be some confusion, but I hope GLSDB can be launched from HIMARS because Ukraine has lots of trucks, they know how to operate them, they're just lacking the munitions to fire. So GLSDB is supposed to be cheap, GPS guided, very accurate. I'm hoping thousands of these will begin arriving in a consistent amount every single week. They have a range of 150 kilometers, 50,000 per unit. This is going to be a very bad couple months for the Russians, as the United States, I believe, is going to be providing up to maybe tens of thousands of these GLSDB rounds. Russia cannot afford a new arms race. Zelensky at the Ramstein meeting stated this. So this is actually the first time President Zelensky in person attended the Ramstein conference that occurs every month in Germany. Usually it was Reznikov or the new defense minister. But Zelensky went in person to talk to his allies, stating, "You all know that Moscow's ambitions have never been limited to Ukraine, and all we want are these ambitions to be defeated in Ukraine as soon as possible. This is the best opportunity, so that we don't have to look for shells and supply tanks to other countries in Europe, Asia, or Africa that the Russian dictator may try to turn into ruins or seize into his crazy empire or zone of influence." 100%. If for some reason Ukraine cannot win this war, then Russia will rearm, attack the Baltics, attack Poland, attack Moldova, attack Kazakhstan, and the Western allies are going to be in the exact same position, just having wasted time, wasted money, wasted resources, and lost our best opportunity. The Ukrainians are amazing. Amazing fighters, dedicated people, they want to win. All they're lacking is the supplies and resources to achieve that victory. Increased threat from Russia against critical infrastructure. There's this report out in the last couple days of a gas pipeline between Finland and Estonia. St. Petersburg is very close. That's been sabotaged. Who do you think did it? Everyone else in this area of the world is a member of NATO, except the guy who keeps talking about blowing up pipelines. So yes, there's going to be an official investigation. I'm sure they will get to the bottom of who did this, but yeah, my money's on Russia is now sabotaging pipes to the Baltics. And this is a new grand military alliance. I'm not ready to declare China as being part of it, but Iran and Russia are all in on global chaos, global war, proxy wars, and destabilizing the entire world. The Iranian missiles that could soon be heading to Russia, Iran is going to start providing ballistic missiles, the Fateh 110 and the Zulfiqar missiles, to the Russians. Up until this point, it's been small arms fire, maybe some artillery rounds, and mostly these drones, but Iran is all in on helping Russia win. Russia appreciates this help, and they're collaborating closely. Iran is also supplying and supporting Hamas. So yes, there is a direct connection between Russia and what's happening in Palestine and Israel. I attempted to talk about this in my video from 2 days ago. It got age restricted by YouTube. It's an 18 plus rating, so you can only see it if you're logged in and you tell YouTube that you're 18 years old. So I'll link it down below if you didn't catch it. I'm going to do my best not to get this video age restricted. But just talking about the terrible things that Hamas has been doing to civilians, women and children, was enough to get my video age restricted by YouTube. So I'm going to refrain from saying the specific things that Hamas is doing. But I have to share this clip with you that has been haunting me the last 2 days. So this is an Irishman, who was in Israel at the time of the attack, and his 8-year-old daughter was at a sleepover on this kibbutz where Hamas attacked and slaughtered everyone, taking some hostages, stealing children. And this is his reaction to finding out after 2 days that his daughter, in fact, was killed.
They just said, "We found Emily. She's dead." And I went, "Yes!" I went, "Yes," and smiled. Because that is the best news of the possibilities that I knew. That was the best possibility that I was hoping for.
And we actually spoke with one man, originally from Ireland, who was separated from his 8-year-old daughter. She had gone to a sleepover at a friend's house who also lived in the kibbutz. And he described to us the agonizing moment after 2 days of waiting for answers. He was rescued. He finally found out that his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, had been killed.
She was either dead or in Gaza. And if you know anything about what they do to people in Gaza, that is worse than death. That is worse than death. The way they treat you. They'd have no food. They'd have no water. She'd be in a dark room filled with Christ knows how many people and terrified every minute, hour, day, and possible years to come. So death was a blessing, an absolute blessing.
So at this point, Hamas has killed over 1,300 innocent Israeli citizens. Several more thousand have been injured. Hamas has abducted hundreds of women and children to bring back to the Gaza Strip to brutalize and torture and use as hostages, threatening to do terrible things to them on camera if all of their demands are not met from Israel. So, my opinion, and I know a lot of people have sympathy for the people of Palestine, but Hamas started this war, and Israel is going to finish it. This war is not going to end until Hamas is completely annihilated, so something like this can never happen again. And if Hamas is concerned for the people of Palestine, the innocent civilians who are suffering, then Hamas can unconditionally surrender. Hamas can release the hostages. Hamas can end the hostilities, but Hamas isn't going to do that. Hamas started this war, and Israel is going to finish it. That's kind of my final opinion on that. And once again, just to put a face on the tragedy, I don't want to in any way promote any kind of Islamophobia. I have friends who are Muslim. I believe 99.9% of Muslim people around the world are honest, peace-loving people. But the brutality of Hamas is indistinguishable from ISIS. Anyone who felt strongly, negatively towards ISIS, you should have the exact same opinion about Hamas. At this point, to me, they are indistinguishable. And the way the world rallied to destroy ISIS, the world should be rallying to destroy Hamas. So this man is Awad Dwarshi. and he is a Muslim paramedic who was near the site of the music festival that Hamas massacred hundreds of people. His friends begged him to leave the area, but he insisted on staying to treat the wounded, and Hamas killed him for treating Israeli citizens. And Ukraine knows this kind of terror. Ukraine knows this level of brutality. The Russians are just as bad. These photos are the 59 local residents of the village of Hroza when Russia used an Iskander missile to blow up a cafe. The people of this village were gathered to mourn. They were having a funeral for loved ones of the village who were lost, and Russia seized on this opportunity to kill a bunch of innocent civilians. 19 people had to be identified with a mobile DNA laboratory. So President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine have shown strong support for Israel and condemned Hamas, while the Russians refuse to do so. They will not condemn Hamas. They will not show their support for Israel in the face of this kind of terrorism. President Zelensky is asked to visit Israel in a show of solidarity. Now is probably not the time. There's a war going on, but I do think in the coming months, eventually President Zelensky will be invited to visit Tel Aviv and give some kind of address to their governing body. But this is the way. I've seen so many videos over the last 20 months of Jews, Christians, and Muslims working together and fighting together to defeat the Russians, to stop Russia's form of fascism. There's goodness in all the great religions of the world. There are people that want to do right. Hate is not the answer, and I hope Ukraine's goodness and their demonstration of humanity will continue to inspire the world. So let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Ukraine's Black Sea humanitarian corridor is working. 19 ships so far have left Ukraine's Black Sea ports with over 740,000 tons of grain. Russia's blockade isn't working because their Black Sea fleet is missing in action because of the strikes on the port city of Sevastopol. Ukraine is still getting their grain exports out. Lithuania has announced they're going to transfer 2 additional NASAMS air defense systems to Ukraine. Thank you so much, Lithuania. The United States also announced another security assistance package at the Ramstein meeting. Only $200 million, but it's the usual stuff as far as artillery shells and HIMARS ammunition. This video is bizarre, with all of these reports that Kadyrov is sick and potentially dying. He wanted to put out a video of himself jogging to prove his vitality. I'll let you guys be the judge.
Ahmad Sil Allahu Akbar.
That video is super awkward. I don't think this guy is going to make it to his 50th birthday. Final clip I have for you is a Ukrainian defender playing his national anthem on the recorder. I know the recorder is not everyone's favorite instrument, but it's something simple and easy to have while on the front lines. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.